Pivotal event unfolded on the shores of what is now the United States, marking the start of a dark chapter in American history. A Portuguese ship, having captured Africans from present-day Angola, crossed the Atlantic, docking in Virginia. This voyage was not one of exploration or trade, but rather the forced transport of human lives, marking a significant moment in the establishment of racialized slavery in America. As the ship's anchor sank into the Chesapeake Bay, it carried the weight of a future steeped in suffering and resilience. The men and women who disembarked were among the first enslaved Africans in the English colonies, setting the stage for centuries of systemic oppression. This event, seemingly small in the grand tapestry of history, ignited a chain reaction that would weave itself into the fabric of American society. Here in Virginia, the seeds of a racialized system of slavery were sown, growing into an institution of unimaginable brutality. The year 1619 stands as a stark reminder of this institution's beginning, where human beings were stripped of freedom, dignity, and identity. This was not merely the arrival of laborers, but the forced transplantation of cultures and histories, uprooted and planted in foreign soil. The introduction of these enslaved Africans marked the onset of a systemic form of slavery that would evolve over decades. It was a system of physical bondage and mental subjugation, entrenching racial hierarchies that would persist for generations. Reflecting on the arrival of these first enslaved Africans, we confront harsh realities. Torn from their homeland, subjected to the horrors of the Middle Passage, and thrust into a world that saw them as less than human, their plight was one of unimaginable hardship. Yet, even in adversity, these individuals bore witness to resilience and survival. Their arrival in 1619 was not just the beginning of a tragic narrative, but also the dawn of a profound legacy. It speaks to the strength and perseverance of those who endured the unimaginable, a testament to the human spirit's quest for freedom and dignity. Understanding this moment in history is crucial, not only to acknowledge the suffering and injustices that occurred, but also to recognize its foundational impact on the United States' development. The institution of slavery shaped the nation's economic, social, and political landscape, its echoes reverberating to the present day. As we delve deeper into this narrative, we must remember that the story of the enslaved Africans who arrived in 1619 is not merely one of oppression, but also of resistance and resilience. It demands to be told, understood, and remembered, for it is in these stories that we find the roots of our present, the lessons of our past, and the hope for a more just and equitable future. In recounting the arrival of enslaved Africans in 1619, we embark on a journey through time, challenging us to confront uncomfortable truths and honor the voices long silenced. It is a journey that begins with the arrival of a single ship but extends far beyond, shaping a nation and countless lives. Let us begin this exploration with open minds and compassionate hearts, ready to learn, reflect, and grow from the past's lessons. For only by understanding where we have come from can we truly shape where we are going. The transatlantic slave trade stands as one of history's most egregious examples of human commodification. This trade was not merely a byproduct of economic necessity, but a deliberate endeavor that transformed human lives into commodities for profit. From the 16th to the 19th century, millions of Africans were forcibly removed from their homelands, shackled, and subjected to the horrors of the Middle Passage. This journey across the ocean was marked by unspeakable suffering, as individuals were crammed into ships' holds. Upon arrival, these individuals were stripped of their identities, reduced to mere numbers and ledgers, and sold to the highest bidder. The dehumanization was complete. They were no longer seen as men and women with rich cultures and histories. This commodification extended to their offspring, born into bondage, perpetuating a cycle of exploitation for generations. The economic motives behind the slave trade were vast and complex. European powers and American colonists saw immense profitability in cultivating cash crops. These industries thrived on enslaved labor, creating immense wealth for those who participated in the trade while laying the foundations for the economic structures dominating the New World. In this brutal calculus, the humanity of the enslaved was disregarded. The trade was a cornerstone of the burgeoning global economy, linking continents in a web of commerce that enriched empires and fueled colonial expansion. Yet, it was the enslaved Africans who paid the ultimate price. As we examine this dark chapter in history, it is crucial to recognize the resilience and strength of those who endured it. Despite relentless oppression, many enslaved individuals resisted their dehumanization, holding onto their cultural identities. The legacy of the transatlantic slave trade is profound and enduring. It laid the groundwork for the racial hierarchies and systemic inequalities persisting today. By understanding the commercialization of slavery, we gain insight into the deep-seated issues continuing to shape our societies. In remembering the past, we honor the lives of those lost and those who survived, ensuring their stories are never forgotten. As we continue to educate ourselves and future generations, we hold the power to transform this painful history into a catalyst for change, fostering a deeper understanding of our shared humanity and the need for justice and equality for all. In American history, the narrative of resistance and rebellion among enslaved Africans stands as a profound testament to the enduring human spirit. Despite the oppressive chains that bound them, enslaved individuals never ceased to strive for freedom. This segment delves into the heart of resistance, illuminating the relentless fight for liberty that defined many enslaved Africans' lives. From their forced arrival, enslaved Africans employed various resistance strategies. These acts of defiance, whether through organized rebellions or subtle day-to-day resistance, were powerful assertions of their humanity. They refused to be mere commodities, choosing to fight against the dehumanizing system that sought to break their spirit. One notable form of resistance was organized rebellion. Among the most famous of these uprisings was the Stono Rebellion of 1739 in South Carolina. It was a bold attempt by enslaved Africans to seize their freedom. Beyond organized rebellions, resistance took many forms. Enslaved individuals engaged in acts of sabotage, slowed down their work, and maintained cultural practices that affirmed their identity and humanity. The stories of individual defiance are equally compelling. Figures like Harriet Tubman, who escaped slavery and returned multiple times to lead others to freedom via the Underground Railroad, exemplify the extraordinary bravery and determination of those who resisted. Even in the face of severe punishment and the threat of death, enslaved Africans continued to resist. Their actions were not only a fight for their own freedom, but also a broader struggle for justice and equality. Resistance among enslaved Africans was not just a series of isolated events, it was a continuous struggle spanning generations. It underscored the fundamental truth that freedom is a birthright, one that cannot be denied by laws or chains. As we reflect on these stories of resistance, we are reminded of the indomitable human spirit and the enduring quest for freedom. These narratives serve as a poignant reminder of the sacrifices made by those who came before us. This segment on resistance and rebellion is not just a historical recounting, it is a tribute to the courage and resilience of those who fought against the shackles of oppression. As we continue exploring the early days of slavery, let us carry forward the lessons of resistance and rebellion, recognizing their profound significance in the broader narrative of American history. In the intricate tapestry of American history, the legal framework of slavery stands as a testament to the lengths taken to institutionalize human subjugation. As whispers of freedom began to echo in the colonies, a contrasting narrative was woven through laws designed to uphold slavery as a permanent societal fixture. The early American legal system, rather than serving as a bastion of justice, was manipulated to entrench slavery deeply into societal fabric. Laws were not merely written in ink but etched into countless lives, ensuring bondage was legal, binding, and enduring. Colonial legislatures and later state governments enacted statutes defining enslaved individuals' status with chilling precision. The Virginia Slave Codes of 1705, for instance, legally codified slave status, stripping them of humanity and categorizing them as property. These laws were comprehensive, covering every aspect of an enslaved person's life. They dictated where they could live, whom they could marry, and even what they could learn. Education, a powerful tool for liberation, was systematically denied to enslaved individuals. The fear was palpable among slaveholders that knowledge could ignite rebellion. Thus, literacy was restricted and ignorance enforced by law. Moreover, the legal framework extended beyond immediate lives, impacting generations. The principle of partus sequitur ventrem ensured children of enslaved women inherited their mother's status, perpetuating slavery across generations. This legal doctrine secured a continuous labor force and entrenched the racial hierarchy by ensuring African descent was synonymous with enslavement. The racialization of slavery was further cemented through laws prohibiting interracial marriage and dictating severe penalties for transgressors. These laws maintained racial purity and prevented any blurring of lines challenging the established order. As slavery became ingrained in economic and social structures, the legal system responded by becoming increasingly rigid. The Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, for example, mandated escaped slaves, even in free states, be returned to owners. The legal structures upholding slavery were not merely about maintaining economic interests, they asserted control and dominance over a people, ensuring the status quo remained unchallenged and resistance voices silenced. Yet, even within this oppressive legal framework, the spirit of resistance persisted. Enslaved individuals found ways to defy laws seeking to bind them. Through covert acts of defiance, they challenged the legal structures, dehumanizing them. Reflecting on slavery's legal framework reveals these laws were not just historical artifacts, but active agents shaping U.S. racial dynamics. They laid groundwork for systemic inequalities persisting long after slavery's abolition. Understanding these legal foundations is crucial for comprehending slavery's full impact on American society. It reminds us that laws, while powerful tools for justice, can also perpetuate injustice. As we delve deeper into this dark chapter, we must confront legacies left by these legal structures and strive to dismantle inequalities they fostered. As we delve into the economic ramifications of slavery, it's crucial to understand that early America's prosperity was intricately woven with enslaved labor's threads. The agricultural landscape of the burgeoning nation relied heavily on the forced toil of African slaves. This exploitation wasn't merely a byproduct of the times, it was a deliberate effort to build an economy thriving on the backs of those stripped of freedom. In the southern states, vast plantations of cotton, tobacco, and sugar thrived. These individuals were not just workers, they were the foundation upon which America's agricultural prowess was built. The wealth generated from these plantations flowed into plantation owners' pockets, merchants, and even the burgeoning industrial sectors in the North. The transatlantic slave trade had already set the stage for this economic framework by transforming human lives into commodities. Ships laden with human cargo crossed the ocean, their holds filled with men, women, and children destined to fuel the New World's economic engine. The systemic exploitation of enslaved labor was not merely an economic strategy, it was an institution embedded within the very laws governing society. Legal frameworks were meticulously crafted to ensure slavery's continuation, thus securing its economic benefits. The economic contributions of enslaved Africans extended beyond plantations. Their skills and labor were integral to infrastructure development, including roads, ports, and buildings. They were artisans, blacksmiths, and carpenters, whose craftsmanship helped build early America's physical and economic landscape. The wealth generated through slavery was not just a Southern phenomenon. Northern industries, too, reaped the benefits. The textile mills of New England, for instance, relied heavily on cotton produced by enslaved labor. Financial institutions and insurance companies in the North provided the capital and security needed to maintain and expand the slave economy. In essence, the entire nation was complicit in this economic system, built on African people's dehumanization and exploitation. Reflecting on this dark chapter reveals slavery's profound and far-reaching economic impact. It laid the groundwork for the United States to emerge as a global economic power. However, this prosperity came at an unimaginable human cost. Understanding slavery's economic impact is not just about acknowledging the past, it's about recognizing this history's enduring effects on present-day America. It challenges us to confront uncomfortable truths about our economic foundations and seek justice for those whose labor was stolen. As we move forward, let us not forget the sacrifices of those who were enslaved, and strive to build an economy valuing justice, equality, and human dignity above all else. As we conclude our exploration into the early days of slavery in America, we are reminded that this dark chapter's legacy continues to cast its shadow over modern society. The echoes of the past reverberate in the present, shaping the socio-political landscape and influencing countless individuals' lives. The systemic inequalities and racial injustices born out of slavery persist, challenging us to confront uncomfortable truths about our history. Understanding slavery's impact is not just an academic exercise, it is a crucial step toward addressing today's social injustices. By examining slavery's origins and evolution, we gain insight into the structures perpetuating inequality. This understanding empowers us to dismantle these structures and work towards a more equitable future. The stories of resistance, courage, and resilience among enslaved individuals offer powerful lessons. They remind us of the indomitable human spirit and the relentless pursuit of freedom and justice. These narratives are not just historical footnotes but integral to the American story, highlighting the contributions and sacrifices of those who fought against oppression. Reflecting on this history compels us to recognize the ongoing struggle for civil rights and social justice. It challenges us to engage actively in the fight against systemic racism and advocate for policies promoting equality and inclusivity. The journey toward justice is long and arduous, but by learning from the past, we can forge a path forward that honors the dignity and humanity of all people. As we close this chapter, let us carry forward history's lessons with a renewed commitment to justice and equality. Let us be guided by the knowledge that change is possible and that each of us has a role in shaping a future where freedom and opportunity are every individual's birthright. The legacy of slavery is a call to action, a reminder that building a just society is ongoing. By remembering the past, we honor those who came before us and pave the way for future generations. Together, through education and understanding, we can transform slavery's legacy into a catalyst for positive change, ensuring history's injustices are never repeated. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Let us continue to reflect, learn, and strive for a world where justice and equality are realized for all.
The history of slavery in the United States is often told in black and white. It's a story of white slave owners and enslaved African Americans. But history is rarely so simple. The story of Antoine Dubuclet Jr. proves this. Dubuclet was a wealthy black man who owned slaves in Louisiana before the Civil War. His life challenges our understanding of race, class, and power in the American South. Dubuclet's story is a hidden facet of American history. It is a story full of contradictions, wealth, and survival. It is one of the most intriguing stories of the 19th century, yet it is rarely told. This video explores Dubuclet's rise to wealth. It examines his status as a black slave owner, and it delves into the culture of the time. We'll look at the politics and social dynamics that allowed such a thing to exist. How could a black man own slaves when racial oppression was at its peak? Antoine Dubuclet Jr.'s story forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. It compels us to examine the complexities of our shared history. Let's uncover the untold story of Antoine Dubuclet Jr. He was the wealthiest black slave owner in American history. Antoine Dubuclet Jr. was born in 1810. He was born in Louisiana to a free Creole family. His father was Antoine Dubuclet Sr. Antoine Sr. was a wealthy man. He owned property and slaves. This was very rare for a black man at the time. The Dubuclets belonged to a unique social class. They were known as gens de couleur libre. This translates to free people of color. This group was mostly mixed race. They occupied a space between the white aristocracy and the enslaved black population in Louisiana. Dubuclet Sr. gave young Antoine a foundation for success. He provided him with wealth and education. Antoine Jr. also received an education in plantation management. The gens de couleur libre were a diverse group. They were descendants of African slaves. They also had European and Native American ancestry. They were often the children of French or Spanish colonists and enslaved African women. Their mixed-race heritage gave them some advantages. They had legal status as free people. This allowed them a degree of social mobility. It set them apart from the majority of African Americans. They could own land and work as craftsmen. In rare cases, they could even own slaves. But they still faced discrimination and legal restrictions. This was especially true after the Louisiana Purchase. American laws began to reshape the racial dynamics of the region. Despite these challenges, the gens de couleur libres carved out a place for themselves in society. They were a testament to the complexities of race and class in the antebellum South. By the time Antoine Jr. inherited his family's estate, he was a skilled operator. He knew how to navigate the complex racial and economic terrain of the American South. He understood the system, and he was prepared to use it to his advantage. This made him both a product of his time and a challenge to it. Antoine Dubuclet Jr.'s early life was shaped by privilege and contradiction. He was born into a world that both acknowledged and limited his freedom. His family's wealth provided him with opportunities, but his race subjected him to prejudice and legal barriers. This duality would define his life and legacy. In 1836, Antoine Dubuclet Jr. married Claire Pollard. She was a wealthy free woman of color. This marriage boosted his social standing. It also significantly increased his financial resources. The Dubuclet family owned a large amount of land in Iberville Parish, Louisiana. This land included the Cedar Grove Plantation. It was one of the largest sugar plantations in the parish. Sugar was a lucrative crop in the antebellum South. It was a labor-intensive industry, and it relied heavily on enslaved labor. Dubuclet was a shrewd businessman. He quickly expanded his sugar operations. By the 1850s, Dubuclet's estate was flourishing. He had amassed a considerable fortune. His estimated net worth was $264,000. This was an enormous sum at the time. It dwarfed the wealth of most white planters. Dubuclet's wealth came at a significant human cost. By 1860, he owned over 100 slaves. This made him one of the largest slaveholders in Louisiana. It didn't matter if a planter was black or white. Dubuclet's success challenged common narratives about slavery. It showed that the institution was about more than race. It was also about economic class and survival. This was especially true in the deeply hierarchical society of the antebellum South. Despite his wealth, Dubuclet couldn't escape the realities of his race. He was still a black man living in a society built on white supremacy. The social and legal framework of the South placed limits on what he could achieve. This was true no matter how wealthy or influential he became. Dubuclet, like other affluent Creoles of color, had to navigate these complex dynamics. He had to balance his desire for wealth and security with the realities of racial discrimination. His ownership of slaves made him a controversial figure. This was especially true within the black community. Some saw him as a traitor to his race. Others argued that he was simply a product of his time. They said he was doing what he had to do to survive. Antoine Dubuclet Jr.'s story forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Some black people owned slaves in antebellum America. It's a fact that challenges our modern sensibilities. How could a black man participate in the very system that oppressed his people? To understand this, we need to look deeper. We need to examine the nuances of black slaveholding in that era. Black slave ownership was rare, but it was not unheard of in the South. There were two main categories of black slave owners. Some owned slaves for personal or protective reasons. Others, like Dubuclet, owned large plantations that depended on slave labor. This was an economic necessity in the world of antebellum agriculture. Many free black individuals purchased enslaved family members. They wanted to protect their loved ones from the horrors of white ownership. These slaves often experienced more humane treatment. They even had a chance of being freed. But some black slave owners operated just like their white counterparts. They engaged in exploitation. They profited from the forced labor of others. Antoine Dubuclet Jr. fell into this category. He amassed his wealth through the brutal system of sugar production. The slaves on his plantation endured grueling labor. They suffered from inadequate nutrition and cruel punishments. Their plight was a stark reminder of the dehumanizing nature of slavery. It didn't matter what race the owner was. Antoine Dubuclet Jr.'s life was a study in contradictions. He was a black man who achieved great wealth and power, but he did this in a society that denied basic rights to people of his race. As a slave owner, he participated in a system that oppressed black people. Yet his own experiences as a black man in the South must have given him a unique perspective. Did he see the hypocrisy of his position? Did he feel any empathy for the people he enslaved? These are questions that historians continue to debate. Dubuclet's story forces us to grapple with the complexities of identity, morality, and power in a time of profound injustice. It's easy to judge Antoine Dubuclet Jr. from our modern perspective. We know the horrors of slavery. We understand the lasting legacy of racial injustice in America. But judging historical figures requires nuance. It demands that we try to understand the context of their time. Dubuclet's story is a reminder that history is rarely simple. It's full of gray areas. It's filled with individuals who challenged our expectations. Antoine Dubuclet Jr. was a black man who owned slaves. He was also a man who navigated a deeply flawed system. He did this to amass wealth and influence. His story serves as a stark reminder of the complexities of the past, and it highlights the enduring power of social and economic systems. The Civil War ended in 1865. It brought an end to slavery and marked a turning point in American history. The country entered a period known as Reconstruction. During this time, the South began to rebuild, and formerly enslaved people sought to claim their rightful place as citizens. Antoine Dubuclet Jr. emerged from the war with his wealth intact. This was a rarity. He was in a unique position to influence the course of Reconstruction. He was a black man who had achieved success in a system that had oppressed his people. This made him both an asset and a target in the volatile politics of Reconstruction-era Louisiana. In 1868, Dubuclet's life took another unexpected turn. He was appointed State Treasurer of Louisiana. This was a remarkable achievement. He was one of the few African Americans to hold such a high office during Reconstruction. Dubuclet's appointment was a testament to his business acumen. It was also a sign of the changing political landscape in the South. Black men had the right to vote, and they were beginning to exercise their political power. Dubuclet's appointment was a victory for those who believed in a more just and equitable South. As state treasurer, Dubuclet faced immense challenges. Louisiana was struggling to recover from the war. Its economy was in ruins, and racial tensions were running high. Dubuclet was tasked with restoring financial stability to the state. He worked closely with Republican leaders, and he was known for his financial knowledge. He was also dedicated to rebuilding Louisiana's economy, but his past as a slave owner cast a long shadow. Many people, both black and white, questioned his loyalty. They wondered if he could truly represent the interests of all Louisianans. Antoine Dubuclet Jr.'s tenure as state treasurer was marked by both successes and controversies. He made significant contributions to stabilizing Louisiana's finances, but his past as a slave owner continued to haunt him. His story highlights the complexities of Reconstruction. It was a time of great hope and progress, but it was also a time of deep division and resentment. Dubuclet's life serves as a reminder that even in times of great change, the past is never far behind us, and it can continue to shape the present in profound ways. Antoine Dubuclet Jr. His life was a tapestry woven from threads of ambition, resilience, and compromise. Born into a world sharply divided along lines of race and class, he navigated the treacherous waters of antebellum Louisiana with a shrewdness that belied his marginalized status. He amassed a fortune, owning vast tracts of land and over 100 souls, a feat that placed him among the wealthiest men of his time, black or white. Yet, the very foundation of his wealth rested upon the backs of enslaved Africans, a stark contradiction to his own heritage as a man of color living in a society built on white supremacy. This paradox forms the crux of his legacy, a legacy that continues to spark debate and defy easy categorization, forcing us to confront the uncomfortable truths of our nation's past. Was he a ruthless opportunist, exploiting his own people for personal gain? Or was he a pragmatist, playing the hand he was dealt in a system rigged against him? a system where survival often demanded unthinkable choices. These questions linger, casting a long shadow over his accomplishments. Dubuclay's story compels us to move beyond simplistic judgments and delve into the messy realities of the past. It urges us to grapple with the fact that history is rarely black and white, but rather a tapestry of grays, woven with threads of resilience, ambition, and moral compromise. Dubuclay's life story serves as a stark reminder that the narrative of slavery is not a simple binary of good versus evil, of white oppressors and black victims. It was a complex system fueled by economic greed, political expediency, and deeply ingrained racial prejudice. A system that ensnared individuals of all backgrounds, even those who were themselves subjected to its cruelty. While some might argue that Dubuclay's entrepreneurial spirit and financial acumen deserve recognition, others will forever see him as a symbol of black complicity in a system that dehumanized and exploited an entire race. The discomfort we feel when confronted with his story is a testament to the enduring power of this legacy, a legacy that continues to shape our understanding of race, class, and power in America. Dubuclay's story challenges us to examine the nuances of history, to resist the urge to sanitize the past, or to cast its actors as one-dimensional heroes or villains. It compels us to confront the uncomfortable truth that even those who fought for freedom and equality sometimes did so while perpetuating the very systems of oppression they sought to dismantle. In the end, Antoine Dubuclay Jr.'s legacy remains a source of both pride and pain, a testament to the enduring power of the American dream and the enduring legacy of America's original sin. Antoine Dubuclay Jr.'s political career, like his life, was marked by a unique set of circumstances and contradictions. As Reconstruction faltered and the promise of racial equality faded under the weight of Southern resistance and Northern apathy, Dubuclay found himself increasingly isolated, his position as a black man of wealth and power becoming increasingly precarious. Despite his efforts to rebuild Louisiana's economy and navigate the treacherous currents of post-war politics, Dubuclay's legacy was forever tarnished by his past as a slave owner. His story serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder that even in times of profound social upheaval, the sins of the past can cast a long shadow, shaping the present and influencing the future in ways both subtle and profound. As the 19th century drew to a close, the world that Antoine Dubuclay Jr. inhabited, a world of vast plantations, enslaved labor, and the precarious social standing of free people of color, faded into memory. The rise of Jim Crow and the systematic disenfranchisement of African Americans in the South served as a stark reminder of the fragility of Reconstruction's promise and the enduring legacy of racial injustice in America. Dubuclay's story, though largely forgotten, remains a crucial thread in the intricate tapestry of American history, a testament to the complexities of race, class, and power in a nation forever grappling with its past. In the annals of American history, Antoine Dubuclay Jr. occupies a unique and unsettling space. He was a black man who achieved extraordinary wealth and influence in a society that systematically denied opportunities to people of his race. His story challenges us to confront the contradictions of our past, to acknowledge the complexities of individual agency within systems of oppression, and to recognize that the pursuit of the American dream has often come at a great human cost. While we grapple with the legacy of slavery and its enduring impact on American society, Dubuclay's story serves as a reminder that the past is never truly behind us. It shapes our present, influences our perceptions, and informs our understanding of the ongoing struggle for racial justice and equality. As we strive to create a more just and equitable society, we must engage with the full spectrum of our history, acknowledging both the triumphs and the transgressions, the complexities and the contradictions. Only then can we truly understand the forces that have shaped our present and chart a course towards a future where the color of one's skin no longer determines their opportunities or limits their potential. Antoine Dubuclay Jr.'s story, though often overlooked, deserves to be remembered, not just as a footnote in the history of slavery, but as a testament to the enduring human capacity for resilience, ambition, and moral compromise in the face of extraordinary circumstances. It is a story that continues to resonate, challenging us to confront the complexities of our past and to work towards a future where such contradictions no longer exist. Antoine Dubuclet Jr. says life was a paradox, a jarring juxtaposition of ambition and oppression, of triumph and tragedy. He rose to become the wealthiest black man of his time, a testament to his business acumen and unwavering determination. Yet, the source of his wealth, the sprawling sugar plantations and the enslaved souls who toiled upon them, cast a long shadow over his accomplishments, a stark reminder of the brutal realities of the antebellum South. His story challenges us to confront the uncomfortable truths of our history, urging us to move beyond simplistic narratives of good versus evil, of oppressor versus oppressed. Dubuclet's life defies such easy categorization. He was a man who both benefited from and was constrained by a system built on racial hierarchy and exploitation, a system that forced him to make impossible choices in the name of survival and success. As we examine Dubuclet's legacy, we are forced to confront the complexities of power, race, and morality in a society grappling with the sins of its past. Was he a product of his time, a man forced to conform to the brutal realities of his era? Or was he an active participant in a system that dehumanized and exploited his own people for personal gain? These questions linger, defying easy answers, prompting us to delve deeper into the nuances of history and to acknowledge the full spectrum of human experience, even in its most uncomfortable forms. Dubuclet's story serves as a stark reminder that the past is never truly behind us. It shapes our present, informs our understanding of the world, and compels us to confront the enduring legacy of slavery and its impact on American society. Antoine Dubuclet Jr. S. story is a thread in the vast tapestry of American history, a story that speaks to the enduring power of the past to shape our present. It is a story of ambition, resilience, and the complexities of navigating a society built on racial inequality. While his story may be uncomfortable for some, it is a necessary reminder that history is rarely simple or straightforward. It is a messy, complicated, and often contradictory narrative that demands our attention and compels us to confront the full spectrum of human experience. As we strive to create a more just and equitable society, we must engage with the full breadth of our history, acknowledging both its triumphs and its transgressions. We must learn from the stories of individuals like Antoine Dubuclet Jr., stories that challenge our assumptions, complicate our understanding of the past, and force us to confront the enduring legacy of slavery and its impact on American society. By remembering and learning from these stories, we honor the struggles and triumphs of those who came before us, and we equip ourselves to build a future where such injustices are relegated to the history books, a future where every individual, regardless of the color of their skin, has the opportunity to achieve their full potential and to live a life free from oppression and inequality. The story of Antoine Dubuclet Jr., though rooted in the antebellum South, transcends time and place, offering valuable lessons for us today. It reminds us that the pursuit of justice and equality is an ongoing journey, a journey that demands our attention, our empathy, and our unwavering commitment.
Henry Box Brown was an African-American man who, in one of the most daring and creative escapes from slavery, shipped himself to freedom in a wooden crate. His story is not only remarkable for its ingenuity, but also for what it symbolizes, the lengths to which enslaved people went to reclaim their freedom and autonomy. Henry Brown was born into slavery in 1815 on a plantation in Louisa County, Virginia. Like many enslaved individuals, Brown endured the brutal realities of slavery, working long hours and suffering the emotional trauma of being treated as property. Brown grew up in a system where families were often torn apart, and tragically, this would also be his fate. By adulthood, Brown had become a skilled laborer and was hired out to work in a tobacco factory in Richmond, Virginia. He married a fellow enslaved woman, Nancy, and they had several children together. Although Brown was able to live somewhat independently through his labor, he was still under the ownership of a master. Despite his efforts to secure his family's freedom, Brown's wife and children were sold to a new owner, who sent them to North Carolina. The separation devastated Brown, and it intensified his desire to escape the inhumanity of slavery. After his family was sold away, Brown began to plot his escape. With the help of a free black man named James C. A. Smith and a white abolitionist, Samuel A. Smith, no relation, Brown devised a plan that would allow him to flee the chains of slavery. This plan was unlike any other attempted before. Brown would ship himself to freedom in a box. The idea came to him one day while working in the tobacco factory. He realized that he could possibly escape by mailing himself to a free state where slavery was outlawed. Samuel Smith, an abolitionist who supported the cause, agreed to help Brown in his extraordinary plan. Brown's journey began on March 23, 1849, when he climbed into a small wooden crate measuring 3 feet long, 2 feet wide, and 2.5 feet deep. Inside, Brown had nothing but a small amount of water and a few biscuits to sustain him. He was determined to withstand the perilous trip in total darkness, confined to the cramped space for more than a full day. The box was labeled as dry goods and was nailed shut and addressed to the Philadelphia office of the Pennsylvania Anti-Slavery Society, a network of abolitionists who were helping enslaved people escape via the Underground Railroad. Brown chose Philadelphia because it was a well-known hub for abolitionist activity and home to a strong network of anti-slavery activists. Henry Box Brown's journey was dangerous and excruciating. The crate was transported by wagon, railroad, steamboat, and ferry. All the while, Brown had to remain silent and still to avoid detection. Along the way, the box was roughly handled. At one point, it was turned upside down for several hours, causing Brown tremendous pain as he was forced to remain on his head in the cramped space. He later recounted that he almost passed out from lack of air and the pressure on his body. Despite these hardships, Brown managed to survive the journey. After approximately 27 hours of confinement, the box finally arrived at its destination in Philadelphia. When members of the Anti-Slavery Society opened the crate, Brown reportedly greeted them by saying, "How do you do, gentlemen?" The astonished abolitionists were both relieved and amazed by his successful escape. Henry Brown's escape quickly made him a national sensation. His daring and imaginative journey was widely celebrated among abolitionists, and he became a powerful symbol of the struggle for freedom. Brown adopted the nickname Box as part of his identity, and he began to share his story publicly, becoming a popular figure on the anti-slavery lecture circuit. Brown traveled across the northern states, telling his story in dramatic fashion. He also published a memoir, Narrative of the Life of Henry Box Brown, in which he recounted the details of his escape and the horrors of slavery. His narrative became an important abolitionist text, contributing to the growing movement to end slavery in the United States. However, the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, which required that escaped slaves be returned to their owners even if they were found in free states, posed a new threat to Brown's freedom. Fearing re-enslavement, Brown fled to England, where he continued to advocate for abolition and performed in public exhibitions, often reenacting his daring escape. While in England, Brown became a showman and performer, using his talents to raise awareness of the injustices of slavery. He continued to lecture, reenact his escape, and even pursued other forms of entertainment, such as mesmerism and performing magic tricks. Brown's time in England provided him with new opportunities for financial stability and personal freedom that he had been denied in the United States. Brown lived in England for over 25 years, where he married an English woman named Jane Floyd and had a daughter. He eventually returned to the United States in the 1870s, after the Civil War had ended slavery with the passage of the 13th Amendment. Though his later life is less well documented, Brown continued to perform as a magician and entertainer. He lived out the rest of his days in relative obscurity compared to the height of his fame during the abolitionist movement. Henry Box Brown's incredible escape from slavery remains one of the most iconic stories of resistance in American history. His determination to seek freedom, despite the enormous risks, serves as a powerful example of human courage and resilience in the face of oppression. Brown's story is not just remarkable for the sheer ingenuity of his escape, but also for its symbolism. His journey in a box represents the confined and dehumanizing conditions of slavery, while his emergence from the crate signifies the powerful moment of liberation. He literally and metaphorically broke out of the system that had imprisoned him, claiming his autonomy in the most creative and dramatic way possible. Brown's narrative continues to inspire contemporary discussions on freedom, human rights, and the legacies of slavery. His courage to defy the system that oppressed him and the support he received from abolitionists highlight the power of collective action and solidarity in the fight for justice. Today, Henry Box Brown is remembered as an extraordinary figure in the history of the abolitionist movement, whose journey to freedom captured the imaginations of people across the world.
Although rare in comparison to white slave owners, there were some free black individuals in the antebellum South who owned enslaved people. The motivations and circumstances surrounding black slave ownership were complex and varied, ranging from those who participated in the institution for economic gain to others who bought family members to protect them from the brutality of slavery. Here are some notable black slave owners in the South. 1. William Ellison, 1790–1861. Life before freedom. William Ellison was born into slavery in 1790 under the name April Ellison. His path to freedom was shaped by his apprenticeship under a white cotton gin maker. Ellison became skilled in the mechanical work of building and maintaining cotton gins, which were essential machines for separating cotton fibers from seeds, an important part of the cotton production process. Freedman and businessman, Ellison was freed in 1816 and quickly became a successful businessman in Sumter County, South Carolina. His expertise in cotton gin manufacturing was in high demand, as the invention of the cotton gin had dramatically increased the profitability of cotton farming in the South. With his earnings, Ellison purchased land and eventually began to acquire enslaved workers. Participation in the institution of slavery. While many freed black people sought to distance themselves from the institution of slavery, Ellison fully embraced it. He used his profits to buy more land and enslaved people, eventually becoming one of the largest black slave owners in the South. His operations resembled those of white planters, with the primary focus being cotton production. Ellison also practiced stringent control over his enslaved workers, reflecting the norms of white slaveholders at the time. Legacy. Ellison's story is often seen as one of economic success in an era where opportunities for freed black people were limited. However, his full participation in slavery complicates his legacy, as he contributed to the system of exploitation from which he had once been a victim. 2. Antoine Dubuclet, 1810–1887. A wealthy sugar planter, Antoine Dubuclet was born free into a wealthy Creole family in Louisiana, inheriting significant property and enslaved people from his father. He capitalized on Louisiana's booming sugar industry, owning extensive sugar plantations, which were among the most labor-intensive agricultural operations in the South. Slave ownership. By 1860, Dubuclet owned over 100 enslaved people, placing him among the wealthiest black men in Louisiana. Sugarcane cultivation was notorious for its harsh conditions, and the enslaved workers on Dubuclet's plantation faced grueling labor, much like those on white-owned plantations. Political influence. During Reconstruction, after the Civil War, Dubuclet's wealth was diminished, but he remained influential. He was elected as the Louisiana State Treasurer during Reconstruction and held the position from 1868 to 1878. His role in post-war politics marked him as one of the few black men to gain political power in the South during this time, reflecting the complicated intersection of race, class, and politics in the Reconstruction era. 3. Cyprian Rickard, Cedar Grove Plantation. Cyprian Rickard made history in 1851 when he purchased the Cedar Grove Plantation at an auction for $250,000, an extraordinary amount of money at the time. Located in Louisiana, this plantation became one of the largest owned by a black man in the antebellum South. Owning 91 enslaved people, with 91 enslaved workers under his control, Rickard was deeply embedded in the economic system of the South, which relied on slavery. Sugar was the primary crop on his plantation, and like other sugar planters, Rickard benefited from the labor of the people he enslaved. His position was rare, as black men who owned large-scale plantations were few and far between. A Creole elite, Ricard's family was part of the Creole class in Louisiana, a social group of mixed-race individuals who often had more economic mobility and access to education than other Black people in the South. This Creole elite played a complex role in the history of the region, as some, like Ricard, embraced slavery as a path to wealth and social status. Before, Tommy LaFawn, 1810-1893. The philanthropic businessman. Tommy LaFawn was an influential figure in New Orleans, known for his success in business and philanthropy. Born into a free family of color, LaFawn made his fortune through various ventures, including real estate, retail, and banking. Complicated relationship with slavery. Although some sources suggest that LaFawn may have owned enslaved people at certain points in his life, his involvement in slavery was minimal compared to other Black slaveholders. He was a vocal advocate for civil rights and used his wealth to support charitable causes, particularly education for Black children and aid for the poor in New Orleans. Post-slavery work. LaFawn's philanthropy extended into the post-war period, where he continued to work for racial equality and justice. He donated large sums to institutions like hospitals, schools, and orphanages for Black people, reflecting his commitment to improving the lives of African Americans after emancipation. Number 5. Justice Angel and Mistress L. Horry. Slave ownership in South Carolina. Justice Angel and Mistress L. Horry, two free Black individuals in South Carolina, are notable for the large numbers of enslaved people they owned. According to the 1830 census, Angel owned 84 enslaved people, while Horry owned 77. This level of ownership was significant, even by the standards of white slaveholders. Economic and social position. Owning such a large number of enslaved people placed Angel and Horry in an elite class of Black slaveholders. Their participation in the institution of slavery challenges traditional narratives of Black resistance to slavery, as they operated within the system for economic gain. Economic motivations. Unlike some free Black people who purchased enslaved family members to protect them from being sold, Angel and Horry were fully engaged in the economic structures of the South. Their wealth and social standing were tied directly to their ownership of enslaved laborers and their ability to profit from the labor-intensive agriculture of the region. Number 6. Marie Metoyer Coincoin and the Metoyer family. A family of landowners, Marie-Thérèse Coincoin, a former enslaved woman, gained her freedom in the late 18th century and went on to become a landowner in Louisiana. She and her descendants, the Metoyer family, founded the Isle Brevel community, a settlement of free Black landowners. Slave ownership. The Metoyer family owned significant tracts of land and enslaved people, with some family members becoming wealthy planters. By the early 19th century, the Metoyers were integrated into the plantation economy, producing cash crops like cotton and tobacco. A complex legacy. While the Metoyers' rise to prominence is an extraordinary example of Black success in the face of systemic racism, their participation in slavery complicates their legacy. The family's success was tied to the same institution that oppressed other Black people, reflecting the broader contradictions of race, class, and slavery in the antebellum South. Number 7. Andrew Durnford, 1800 to 1859, sugar planter and businessman. Andrew Durnford was a free Black sugar planter in Louisiana who became successful by owning one of the most productive sugar plantations in the state. Durnford was part of the Creole elite, a group of mixed-race individuals who had more social and economic opportunities than most Black people in the South. Owning 77 enslaved people. By 1830, Durnford owned 77 enslaved individuals who worked on his sugar plantation. Sugar plantations required extensive labor, particularly during the harvest, and Durnford relied on enslaved labor to maintain his plantation's productivity. Friendship with John McDonough. Durnford had a close business relationship and friendship with John McDonough, a white planter and philanthropist. Their correspondence provides a rare glimpse into the complex relationship between Black and white slaveholders and the economic transactions that connected them. Durnford's position in society, as both a slaveholder and a Black man, placed him in a unique and often contradictory position in the South's racial hierarchy. Number 8. Charles Roux, large-scale slave ownership. Charles Roux was another prominent free Black man in Louisiana who owned a significant number of enslaved people. His plantation, like others in the region, relied heavily on the labor of enslaved workers to produce cash crops such as cotton and sugar. Economic success. Roux's wealth, like that of other free black planters in Louisiana, came from his full participation in the slave-based agricultural economy. His ownership of dozens of enslaved people placed him among the wealthiest free black individuals in the South. Social position. Roux, like other free black planters, occupied a precarious social position. While he was a successful landowner and respected businessman, he remained subject to the systemic racism of Southern society. His ownership of enslaved people reflected the entanglement of race and class in the region. Motivations and complexities of black slave ownership. The reasons behind black slave ownership in the antebellum South were varied and nuanced. While some black slave owners purchased enslaved family members to secure their freedom, others participated in slavery for the same economic reasons as white slaveholders, to profit from the labor of enslaved people. In some cases, free black individuals sought to protect family members by purchasing them, but in other cases, they fully embraced the institution of slavery to build their wealth.